Howdy folks, how's it going? Brew day for Extractaganza number 12. And what we're doing, this batch, this fella, Mangrove Jack's, it's the Australian Series Classic Bitter. Tells us that this is a hoppy distinctive lager style beer with a crisp bitter taste to really satisfy a thirst. Okay. So that's where we're going. Now I've opened the box, and inside the box is a pouch, and have discovered that this pouch has a tiny little hole in it where it's been creased up in the box. A little bit of extracts come out, not a real lot. The extract seems to have sealed over the hole, so I'm hoping that it's leaked a little bit, but it's sealed itself back up pretty quickly, and hopefully the extract inside is okay. So I did toss up maybe just ditching this beer altogether in a moment, but we're going to go with it and see how we go. So I'm splitting, well, of course we're splitting. Now on the box they're giving us some target ABV of 4.4%, telling the IBU of 21 to 25. We should use either 1.2 kilos of liquid malt or 1 kilo of dextrose for a final gravity of 1006, which I would assume is going to be if we use the 1 kilo of dextrose, because the target ABV at 4.4 is using dex. So we're looking to be on the lighter side of the style. So we're going to play with that. So what I'm going to do is, the first half I'm using 400 grams of light dry malt and 300 grams of dex. So that would tally out to being 800 and 600 in a, it was a full batch, which is about where I'd be looking to go, 1.4 kilo, just to bring up, I'd rub that the ABV up a little, and given that I'm going to be, this is going to be fermented under pressure, and with no bottle priming, I want a little bit more coming out of the fermenter, not getting that 0.5% with a bottle prime. So I don't know whether the 4.4 that they're talking about includes bottle priming, and I would imagine it does, which means if I brew it to the instructions, we're under 4%. So I'm hoping that that will work out alright. The other half a batch, got my grain here. Now this is what's left of the bag of grain that I bought ready milled, which I was going to use as the base of one of the Great Northern clones. And what that is 10 parts of Barrett Burston ale malt and 1 part of Barrett Burston Munich malt. So what I've got is 1.4 kilos. So it's about 1270 grams of the ale malt, about 130 grams of Munich, yeah, give or take. In that ballpark. I'm gonna crack this up. I'm gonna mash it at, I'm gonna drop it into a mash at 70 degrees in about 4 litres of water, and let it sit for half an hour. So it'll drop down through the 60s a little bit, but it should stay within the 60s. But either way, I think it's going to give me a nice mash at that point, which should give us a nice malt bake to go with this. It's still going to be light, but it's going to just bring up a little bit extra flavour, especially with that little bit of Munich in there. I will then add 400 grams of dex to this as well. So a bit more dex than what's in the other half, but one, that's to sort of counteract any heaviness from the grain, but two, it's also I want to bring this one, I'm hoping that will bring the ABV up on this one just a little bit, maybe get us into the yeah, mid to higher fours, you know, 4.6, 4.7, maybe somewhere in that sort of range, just to give it a little bit more weight. So yeast on this fella, I'm going to be using US-05. It does say it's a lager style. I've got no lager yeast here ready to go. I've had a chaotic couple of days. I actually meant to get this done 2 days ago, and I don't have any dry lager. Any only lager I've got is either a slurry or a liquid. Either way I'd need to make a starter, and I haven't got the time to do that. So I'm going to run this one with the 05, just at a nice low temp. So I'm going to run it at 13 degrees. And yeah, flowing on from the 12 degree lug USA 5 experiment, I know that I can get a nice lager, a really good lager-like finish from the 05 down those temperatures, down that sort of range. So 13 degrees with the 05. It will be standard 1 gram a litre pitch. So the equivalent of one dry pack of 05 in each half. Into the cornies, a little bit of pressure, and I will bottle directly from the fermenter, as I said, with no additional priming or alcohol coming from that. So that's where we be. So I'm gonna get these on. You don't need to watch me doing this shit. You know what it looks like. And I will see you shortly. Yeah, in 6 weeks' time, when we're trying this fella out. Rightio. Tasting time on these fellas. Got my notes here and what's happened. Now, bottle on my left, your right, is the base brew with half a tin with 400 light dry malt, 300 grams of Dex, so that would have been 800 and 600 in a full batch. Had original gravity of 1044. Now I bottled this after 15 days and it was measuring 1022 on the gravity, and it's obviously it's continued as it's to ferment in the bottle. I don't know why this, again, this is like the third batch now. We've had a similar sort of thing happen where 15 days, 14, 15 days of ferment has not got through the batch. USA 5 dry was pitched, gram a litre. There's clearly re-fermentation going on in this bottle because there's an actual yeast cake in the bottom. I've let a whack of gas off this a couple of days ago in an attempt to reduce the build-up in the bottle. It worked to some degree. It was quite gassy when I poured it. It's taken a little bit of effort to get it poured, and as a result it's not as clear as it was when I first pulled the bottle out. It has clouded up a little bit. So I don't know where the final gravity is. I could take a reading on it. I might do so and put it into the comments. It's going to be too much of a muck around now to try and degas a sample. So I'll pour enough of this off into a hydrometer once I'm finished, and I'll get a gravity final reading. This fella is the dressed up version with some grain. So 1.27 kilos of Barrett Burston ale malt, so about 2.5 kilos if you're doing a full batch. 130 grams of Munich, so 260 again on that full batch, and there was 400 grams of dextrose, so 800 on the if you're doing a full batch. Original gravity was 1042. So it's finished up a little bit lighter than the standard kit. Final gravity was 1011, so it's finished up at 4.1% ABV. This one was also a little bit overcarbed, but there's been no gas leak. This is gas straight off the bottle, straight off the keg. So whether there was just a tiny little bit of continued fermentation or whether it was just a bit of excess gas in the keg, I'm not exactly sure, but there is only really tiny little bit of sludge on the bottom there, so I'd be more inclined to think it was just a case of it was a bit overcarbonated going in. It's possibly dropped 1 gravity point. And yeah, that would be the most. It wasn't seriously overcarved. So nice golden colour. I said the base kit's a little bit, it's cloudy now. It actually looks quite nice, even with that murkiness. It looks like a, yeah, going in that bloody, yeah, lightly hazy pale ale sort of category, even though we're on a bitter. So yeah, let's have a look at it. It's got a fairly sort of light, standard sort of kit, sort of sweet nose. That's about her. It's an Australian classic bitter, so this should be realistically along the styles, I'm assuming, of a 4X or a VB. Yeah, that sort of beer. Yeah, that's fairly not eventful. A little bit of kitty there. Not a huge amount of tang. Not much in the way of hop flavour. It's fairly clean, apart from, like I said, a little bit of kitty sort of tang there. But the flavour up in that is reasonably clean. So I don't know how much this weird little extra fermentation has contributed to that. Whether it's, yeah, had a negative effect on the flavour or not, whether it's had a positive effect, don't know. It's almost, yeah, we've almost been part of the Cooper's type of, you know, that secondary ferment in the bottle type of thing. Certainly not the most offensive kit beer I've ever drunk. There's enough underlying flavour there to sort of keep it from being decent. Just trying to sort of get there. Let's have a go at this fella. So dressed up with some Barrett Burston, some good Aussie homegrown malt, a bit of Munich, which is a long way from being homegrown. Mind you, it could be a bloody, it's likely to be a Wyman if it's, anyway. Got that kit nose is still there, underlying. So I added no extra hops to this. It was just the grain. Just trying to boost up the flavour. Trying to reduce. No extra, because it's an Aussie bitter. It's meant to be a lightly hop flavoured beer. It's about the malt and that upfront bitterness. So we haven't added anything to it. That tang, it's there coming through, it runs right through the, it's funny, actually, it runs from the back. It's really weird, I've never had a beer do that. The tang sort of runs from the back left of my mouth right across at an angle, right across to the front of my mouth. It's not coming across the tongue or back from front to back, it's actually coming across from one side to the other. That's weird. Okay. It's a bit cleaner than this, but it's still the tang, it's just too much. It's not pleasant. It's a bit less noticeable in there than it is here, but not a significant amount, and certainly not enough that you can say you're not going to notice it, because it's noticeable. You'd be pretty hard up to sort of say that's an enjoyable beer. Not terrible. But yeah, like this beer is now 28, it's 38 days old. So it's coming up towards, it's like 5 and a half, coming up to 6 weeks since it's been bottled. And yeah, like that's not going to age out, I don't think at all. It may a little bit, but yeah. The malt flavour's not too bad. There's not enough hop, there's not enough bitterness. For a bitter, it's a bitter. It's got nowhere near enough bitterness for a bitter. It's almost soft. Yeah, I don't want to drink any more of it. I can't give that a good score. I can't encourage anyone to really use that. For me, it's another Mangrove Jack's just miss. Yeah. I can't recommend anyone trying this. I can't imagine that you're going to be able to work on that as a base. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. You know, but erring on the lower side. I think there's far better. There's far better kits out there for this sort of style. This kind of Aussie basic beer. I'd even be going back to like something like the Morgan's Stockade, the Stockman's Draft, which is a bit more like for that more traditional Australian pub sort of beer, and it's got a little bit more. It's a little bit cleaner and better. This I can't recommend. So. Anyway, that's Extractaganza number 12. Number 13, which is going to be a little way off just at the moment. It's still in the fridge. It's not far off getting bottled up. It's probably still 4 or 5 days away. I've got it in the other book. But that is Cooper's Real Ale. So that'll be the next Extractaganza. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a wait, but I'll see you on that one. Between now and then, I'll see you on some other videos. So Extractaganza number 12 done. Mangrove Jack's Australian Series Classic Bitter. Don't bother yourself. Guys, cheers.